It was supposed to be a peaceful day at the park. I was there to enjoy some fresh air and read a book. I picked a quiet spot, far from the playground and the crowds of people, hoping for some peace and quiet. But then she showed up. The entitled mother, the one who thought the world revolved around her and her precious little child. It all started when I heard some shouting. I looked up and saw her red-faced and screaming at a couple with a stroller. "I can't believe you would bring your stroller here. This is a park, not a shopping mall," she screeched. The couple tried to explain that their child was too small to walk, but the entitled mother wasn't having any of it. "I don't care. You should have left the stroller at home or gone to a mall like normal people. This is my park, and I don't want it cluttered with your crap." I rolled my eyes and went back to my book, hoping she would go away. But she didn't. Instead, she stomped over to me and started yelling. "You there? You look like you're not doing anything important. Get over here and help me." I raised an eyebrow and put down my book. "What do you want?" "My child wants to play on that bench, but these people won't move. Make them move." I looked over and saw a family sitting on a bench, enjoying a picnic. They weren't doing anything wrong. "I'm sorry, but they have every right to be here. You can't just make people move because you want to use a bench." The entitled mother huffed and puffed. "I can do whatever I want. I'm the queen of this park." I chuckled. "I think you're mistaken. This park belongs to everyone, not just you." That's when things took a turn for the worse. The entitled mother lost her temper and tried to physically attack me. I dodged her first punch, but she was surprisingly strong for someone so small. "Get out of my way, you little brat!" she screamed. I tried to reason with her. "Listen, we can talk about this like adults?" But she didn't want to listen. She swung at me again, and this time I grabbed her wrist and twisted it. She yelped in pain and stumbled back, almost falling over. "That's enough," I said firmly. "You can't just attack people because you don't get your way." The entitled mother glared at me, still holding her wrist. "I'll have you know that I know the mayor of this town. He'll hear about this." I raised an eyebrow. "I highly doubt that, but feel free to try. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go back to reading my book." I picked up my book and walked away, leaving the entitled mother fuming behind me. As it turned out, the entitled mother did try to get me in trouble. She called the police and told them I had assaulted her. Luckily, there were witnesses who saw everything, and the police quickly realized that she was lying. The entitled mother was the one who ended up getting arrested for disturbing the peace and attempted assault. I didn't press charges, but I did make sure to get a restraining order against her. It's been a few weeks since that incident, and I'm happy to say that I haven't seen the entitled mother at the park since. It's been peaceful and quiet, just the way I like it. I remember the day when my life changed forever. It was a normal day, and I had just finished up a workout at the gym. I was feeling great and ready to head out into the world. As I walked out of the gym, I noticed a man shouting at a young woman. He was pointing his finger in her face and had a look of anger in his eyes. She looked scared and unsure of what to do. Without thinking, I walked over to them and asked the man what was going on. He turned to me and started yelling, accusing the woman of stealing his wallet. She denied it, but he wasn't having any of it. He called her a thief and threatened to call the police if she didn't return his wallet. I could tell that this guy was a bully, and I wasn't going to stand by and let him treat this woman like that. So I offered to help look for his wallet. He agreed, and we all started searching the area. As we were searching, the man continued to berate the woman, calling her names and making her feel even worse. It was clear to me that he was just trying to bully her into admitting to something she didn't do. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. "Listen, man, you need to calm down and stop treating this woman like a criminal. We're going to find your wallet, but if you don't start treating her with respect, I'm going to have to get the police involved." The man sneered at me, but I could see that he was starting to lose his temper. "Who the hell do you think you are? This has nothing to do with you." "It has everything to do with me. I can't stand to see someone being treated unfairly. Now, let's find your wallet and get out of here." We continued to search, and eventually, The woman found the man's wallet under a nearby bench. She handed it to him, and he snatched it from her hand without even saying thank you. "You're lucky we found it," he said to her. "I was just about to call the police. I could tell that this guy was just looking for someone to bully, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it." As he started to walk away, I called out to him, "Hey, buddy, you forgot something." He turned around, and before he knew what was happening, I had thrown his wallet as far as I could into a nearby pond. Yeah, it's another talent I have, the infamous sleight of hand. "What the hell did you do that for?" he yelled, rushing towards me with his fists clenched. I stood my ground, ready for whatever he was going to throw at me. "I did it because you're a bully, and you need to learn that treating people like garbage isn't going to get you very far in life." The man lunged at me. We grappled for a few moments, and then he lost his balance and fell backwards onto the pavement. Before he could get back up, the police arrived and took him into custody. I was questioned by the cops about me throwing his wallet into the pond, but the girl came to my defense and told them none of this ever happened. And honestly, I followed in her trail. Not my proudest moment, but oh well. As it turned out, the man had a history of bullying and had been in trouble with the law before. He was charged with assault and harassment and spent several months in jail. I didn't do what I did to get revenge on this guy. I did it because I believe that everyone deserves to be treated with respect. When I was a kid, I was the target of a lot of bullying. I was small for my age, and I wore glasses, which made me an easy target. As I got older, I continued to stand up for what I believed in. I became a social worker, helping kids who were dealing with all sorts of issues. I loved my job, but it wasn't always easy. There were times when I had to put myself in danger to protect the kids I was working with. So when I saw that man bullying that young woman, it was like all of those memories came flooding back. I knew that I had to do something to stop him. And now, as I stand here watching the police take him away in handcuffs, I know that I did the right thing. I may have lost my temper a little bit, but I don't regret what I did. As the police car drives away, I turn to the young woman and smile. "Are you okay?" She nods, still a bit shaken from the whole ordeal. "Thank you," she says. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been there." I smile again. It's all in a day's work, just doing my job. I never thought I'd end up on Entitled People, but that's exactly where my story belongs. It all started on a Saturday afternoon when I decided to run some errands at my local grocery store. As I was walking towards the entrance, I noticed a group of veterans selling poppies to raise money for their association. I felt a sudden urge to help them, so I reached into my pocket and pulled out some cash. Little did I know that my good deed would end up with me being shoved by a woman that we'll refer to with Karen. But before I dive into the details of that incident, let me tell you a bit about myself. My name is Emily, and I'm a 27-year-old social worker. I've always been passionate about helping others, which is why I chose this career path. I've worked with children, the elderly, and even the homeless. I believe that everyone deserves a chance to live a decent life, and I try my best to make that happen. On that fateful day, I had just finished volunteering at a local animal shelter when I decided to stop by the grocery store. I was wearing my usual attire, a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, and my favorite sneakers. I had my hair tied up in a messy bun, and I was carrying a canvas bag that read, "Adopt, don't shop." I must have looked like a hot mess, but I didn't care. I was on a mission to get some groceries and help the veterans. As soon as I saw the veterans, I walked towards them with a smile on my face. "Hi there, I'd like to make a donation," I said as I handed them some cash. "Thank you so much, miss. Your generosity means a lot to us," one of the veterans said. "No problem at all. Thank you for your service," I replied. I continued walking towards the store, feeling proud of myself for doing a good deed. That's when I heard someone yelling behind me. I turned around and saw Karen, a middle-aged woman with short hair and an angry expression on her face. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she shouted. "I'm sorry," I replied, confused. "You can't just give money to those people. They're probably scammers. You're just encouraging them," she continued to yell. "They're veterans raising money for their association," I explained calmly. "I don't care. You're just wasting your money. You should give it to people who actually deserve it, she replied, getting closer to me. At that point, I realized that Karen was one of those entitled people that I had heard so much about. I tried to walk away, but she shoved me hard, causing me to lose my balance and drop my canvas bag. "What the hell?" I exclaimed, feeling both angry and embarrassed. "You're the one who should be ashamed of yourself, giving money to those scammers. You should be ashamed of yourself," Karen continued to yell. That's when a security guard intervened. "Ma'am, please calm down. You can't just shove people like that," he said. "She started it. She's the one who's giving money to those scammers," Karen replied. "That's not true, ma'am. These people are legitimate veterans raising money for their association. And even if they weren't, you can't just shove people like that," the security guard explained. Karen tried to argue some more, but the security guard ended up cuffing her and taking her away. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I had never been physically attacked like that before, and it was all because I had tried to do something good. After the incident, I went into the grocery store and tried to calm myself down. I walked up and down the aisles, picking up the items on my grocery list, but I couldn't shake off the anger and sadness I felt. Why was it so hard for some people to understand the importance of giving back to those who have served our country? Why did Karen feel entitled to physically attack me for trying to help others? As I was waiting in line to check out, a woman tapped me on the shoulder. "Excuse me. I just wanted to say that I saw what happened outside, and I'm sorry you had to go through that," she said. "Thank you. That's very kind of you," I replied. "I'm a veteran myself, and it's people like you who make a difference. Don't let people like that Karen discourage you from doing good," she continued. I smiled at her and thanked her for her service. Her words made me feel a little bit better, and I realized that I couldn't let one entitled person ruin my faith in humanity. I was still going to do good no matter what. When I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I decided to write a post on social media about my experience, hoping to raise awareness about entitlement and the importance of giving back. To my surprise, my post went viral, and I received hundreds of messages of support from people all over the world. A few days later, I received a message from a woman who worked at a local charity organization. She had seen my post and was impressed by my passion for helping others. She invited me to volunteer at their upcoming fundraiser, which was going to benefit homeless veterans in our area. I jumped at the opportunity, and the fundraiser ended up being a huge success. We raised thousands of dollars for the veterans, and I met so many amazing people who shared my passion for giving back. Looking back on that day at the grocery store, I realized that Karen's entitlement had actually led me to an incredible opportunity. If she hadn't shoved me, I wouldn't have written that post, and I wouldn't have been invited to volunteer at the fundraiser. It's funny how life works sometimes. In the end, I learned that even when faced with entitled people, it's important to stay true to your values and continue doing good. There will always be people like Karen in the world, but there are also people who appreciate and support kindness and generosity, and that's what really matters. It all started when I was in college and living in a dorm with 3 other roommates. Let's call them Dean, Ashley, and Alex. We were all freshmen and still getting to know each other, but for the most part, we got along pretty well. However, there was one thing that Ashley did that drove me up the wall. Ashley was a bit of a neat freak, which is fine, but she took it to the extreme. She would constantly nag us about keeping our stuff clean and organized, even going so far as to rearrange our things when we weren't around. I tried to talk to her about it, but she would just brush me off and say that she was just trying to help. One day, I had finally had enough. I was in the middle of studying for a big exam when Ashley came in and started rearranging my desk. I snapped and told her to stop. She got upset and said that she was just trying to make our room look nicer. That's when I had an idea. "You know what, Ashley? You're right. Our room could use some sprucing up. Why don't we have a little competition to see who can make our side of the room look the best?" I said, my voice filled with false enthusiasm. Ashley's eyes lit up at the challenge. "That's a great idea. I accept," and just like that, the competition was on. We each had a week to make our side of the room look as neat and organized as possible, and then we would have a Judge Dean come in and decide who had done the better job. Now, here's where the malicious compliance comes in. I knew that no matter how clean and organized I made my side of the room, Ashley would find something to nitpick about. So instead, I decided to go in the opposite direction. I started by throwing all of my clothes on the floor and leaving my books and papers scattered around my desk. I even left a half-eaten sandwich on my nightstand for good measure. Ashley was horrified when she saw my side of the room, but I just smiled and told her that I was confident in my abilities. The week went by, and Ashley spent every waking moment cleaning and organizing her side of the room. Meanwhile, I continued to let my side devolve into chaos. When Dean finally came to judge our efforts, Ashley's side of the room looked like something out of a magazine, while my side looked like a tornado had hit it. Dean took one look at my side of the room and raised an eyebrow. "Oh, what happened here?" "I decided to take a different approach," I said with a grin. Dean shook his head and looked over at Ashley's side of the room. "Well, it's clear who the winner is. Ashley, your side looks amazing." Ashley beamed with pride, but then I spoke up. "Wait a minute, Dean. You said we were supposed to make our side of the room look the best. You never said anything about it having to be clean and organized." Dean looked at me skeptically. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that my side of the room is the best because it's the most realistic. Nobody's side of the room looks like a Pinterest board in real life. Mine looks like a real dorm room." Dean looked between Ashley's immaculate side of the room and my messy one, clearly unsure of what to do. Finally, he sighed and said, "Fine, I guess I have to give it to you, LP. You did technically follow the rules." Ashley was fuming. "That's not fair. You didn't even try." I just shrugged. "Hey, you accepted the challenge. You should have known I was going to come up with some loophole." Dean looked like he wanted to say something else, but I could see that he didn't want to get in the middle of our argument. So he just quickly made his exit, leaving me alone with Ashley. "I can't believe you did that," Ashley said, glaring at me. "I can't believe you still don't get it," I shot back. "I told you before that I don't like how you're always trying to control everything in the room. This was just my way of showing you that I'm not going to let you do that anymore." Ashley just scoffed. "You're so immature. You can't even handle a little bit of criticism." "It's not about criticism, Ashley. It's about respecting each other's space. You can't just go around rearranging everyone's stuff without their permission." We didn't speak much after that. Ashley continued to be her usual self, but I noticed that she seemed to be a bit more hesitant when it came to touching our stuff, and I made sure to keep up my end of the bargain by keeping my side of the room messy. It wasn't long before the mess started to bother me too, but I refused to clean it up on principle. Looking back on it now, I realized that my approach was a bit petty, but at the time, it felt like the only way to get through to Ashley. And in a strange way, it did work. We were never best friends, but we were able to coexist in the same room without driving each other crazy. And who knows, maybe the next time I see a challenge like that on malicious compliance, I'll have another story to share